Welcome to Cuppa Talks. I got this chime ages ago. I think it was from a yoga studio that was selling things, and they had bowls and bells, and they had this hanging there. And it's like, this is unique. You might sort of recognize it. This is actually what is commonly known as the Koshi Chimes is modeled after. This is the original. This is from India. This is a brass bell or brass tube. Inside are various tines of different lengths, probably also brass. And then you can see we have this here, cord coming down, and there's some sort of a disc in here, metal disc that swings and hits the little tines to make the chimey sound. This is what your modern Koshi and other copies are modeled after. This is the original, the real thing. So nobody invented the Koshi chimes. They just copied something from India that's probably been around, who knows, hundreds of years. I don't know. I've had this for probably 20 years. It doesn't have the same pretty sound. It's not tuned to the chakras or the planets or autumn winds and summer breezes. It's not tuned to anything like that. But I like it because it has that more authentic, rustic sort of sound. Yeah, we'll put it down here. It's important to know your history of things, the lineage of things. So like I said, nobody invented the Koshi chimes or all their others, the copies of those out there. Nobody invented them. They took the idea from something that existed and they refined it and made a Western version of it. That's important to know. So the next time you're playing your Koshi chimes, remember, it's a copy. Okay. So I don't want this to be too ranty. I've got a couple things I want to talk about. Let's get right to it. Here we go. I was with my wife last weekend. We went to a neighboring city. We had lunch. We were, just having a nice holiday off. And we went to the fabric museum that they have there. And they have exhibits of fabric art and things. My wife is a quilter, so I've been to fabric exhibits, quilting exhibits, fabric stores all over the world. And I like going to it because I find, again, as I keep saying, I'm a visual person. I find quilting and fabric and all the colors and the patterns very inspiring to me. Extremely inspiring visually. And that inspires the music that I make. So anyway, we were at the museum. They had this whole box full of bamboo Japanese knitting needles. And I ended up buying 3 pair. Someone must have donated to them all these because they had them real cheap, like $2 for a pair. I think this one was $3. Yeah, $3. So it was like $7 here. Now that I think of it, I should have just bought the whole box. There were probably like 20 pair of these, and I should have bought the whole box. But I just picked out the ones that really interested me. I've got, what is this? These are Japanese, and they're bamboo. Normally, these are like $9, $10 a pair. So I got a good deal. And these are, what size is this? These are 9 inches long, and these are 13, I think. These are very thick. What I like about the Japanese ones is they have the nice, they're bamboo and they have the bamboo or wooden ball end. So you get two different sounds. And I got some, I think they're number 3s and 4s. I get a short pair and a long pair. Alternative strikers. I mean, you can find things out there. I mean, I used to love to go to like Joann Fabrics when it existed, and they would have sales, and I'd go and buy knitting needles, metal ones, bamboo ones, whatever. I have metal ones. I use metal crochet and knitting needles. And people are like, oh no, you play your gongs with metal needles and all this, but it's like, no, I don't bash the gongs, and I'm not like grinding on them. Let me grab some of them here. Here we go. These are aluminum. These are knitting needles. But they're great for and this is a US number 8. It's a 5mm double-ended. And I got, what, were there 2, 4, there were 6, 5 in this card here. And I don't know, I probably paid maybe $10 for these. And I've got other sizes, thinner, longer. And look for alternate sources. Like I was saying in the other video, you could pay $150 for a mallet like this. Look for other things. And I love, you know, the knitting needles because they give you that very soft sort of sound. Here's a pair right here. Let me grab these. And you can see they have the ball ends and they have the pointy end. A lot of possibilities with things like that. Bamboo knitting needles. And you might come across a sale like I did. Really, I'm kind of kicking myself. I should have just spent $20 and bought the whole box because they're great. So anyway, look for alternate things you can play with. Go to the kitchenwares department and look at things like spatulas and other things there. You can get some great sounds with kitchen utensils. And if you get silicone ones, they're flumies. You can use a lot of silicone kitchen utensils as a flumie. And they don't cost $80 for one. You can get a nice silicone flipper or silicone something for usually under $10. So don't be afraid to look for these alternate sources of sounds. As a percussionist, this has been I've done this my whole life, looking for alternate striking implements, also looking for alternate things to make sounds with. Here's a good example. I wouldn't necessarily use this at a sound session. This is a piece of sheet metal I got out of a construction dumpster. Like I said, I would not use this and those type of sounds at a meditation session. But when I'm playing a concert, a solo concert, or playing with other musicians in an improvised setting, you better believe it. I've got a couple different sizes of this, and I've got a really big one too that I've had for, oh my gosh, 50 years now. This big sheet of aluminum that I got out of a club I was playing in that was having some air conditioning work done, and they left behind this big sheet of corrugated metal, probably aluminum or whatever, and I've been dragging that around with me for 50 years. Great sounds. But not in a gong session, really. But look around for things. You can find sounds everywhere. You can find different strikers and mallets and things, and you can find sounds. Go to your resale shops, like a Goodwill or similar. I'll go in there and I'll bring a mallet with me, and I'll just start playing on things like bunt pans and pot lids and things like that, serving trays. Especially if you find the old cast iron ones. Those sound beautiful. So I'll go there and I'll just start banging on stuff. Or I'll go to some place like an import shop, or a place like Home Goods or something, where when they have get in all the brass stuff from India, and I'll be in there banging on flower bowls and serving bowls and things. I've got a copper serving bowl here somewhere that I stole from my wife because it had a really nice sound. So it's like, oh, I'm going to use this, and that was like probably 20 years ago, and I never gave it back. But look around for these alternate sounds, okay? That's really important. Okay, here's another subject that I'd like to talk about. That's blind spots. And by that, I mean, we all do things, and I will speak from total experience here. I know I have some blind spots, and sometimes when I'm thinking or working, I get focused. And I'm focused on straight ahead, focused on the task at hand, and I don't see what's, to either side of me. I'm focused straight ahead. And I can miss things and important things. And that's one difficulty I find in working alone, being a solo musician. When you're in a band, you can bounce things off of other people, or somebody else in your band will say, hey, Michael, what about this thing you're doing, and this and that and the other? Maybe if you did it this way, or switched this, or played a different cymbal instead of that cymbal. And, you get feedback from other musicians. And I would do that to people too in my band. Say, what about if you try this tone or do this? When you work in a group situation, especially a band, if you get along with each other, you trust each other, and you're all going for the common good. So you're pooling your ideas and you're helping each other become better musicians. Now, when you're a solo musician, and I'm down here in my studio all the time by myself, it's rarely anybody ever comes down here unless they're coming for a lesson. I'm on my own, and I know sometimes I get these blind spots, and I can't see outside of that. A part of that is my neurodivergent mind, which has a very intense focus. I mean, when I get focused on something, it's a laser focus, and I will stay with that and see it through to the end. But I realize I have this blind spot where I got to come up for air. I got to take off the blind. I got to widen my view so I can see, oh, there's these other options over here. I didn't see those because I was so focused on looking straight ahead. But it's like, oh, there's options over here too. So it's important, I think, to know your blind spots so that you can work with them and work around them. And I know that hyper laser focus is a big blind spot of mine, as I will just get so wrapped up in what I am doing and doing it a certain way that I do not see other possibilities, when there might be a myriad of better ways and possibilities just right within my reach, but I'm not focusing there. So I've learned to a couple things. One is I record myself, audio and video, because then I can look at it from a completely different perspective. When you're in the midst of doing something, you are the doer. And that is a very specific perspective, the doer, the player. So when I'm playing the gongs, I'm there, and that is my focus. I'm playing the gongs or whatever other instruments I have. But later on, let's say I've recorded video or even audio, I can sit back and I can watch, or I can just listen to it, and suddenly I am not the doer or the player. I'm the listener. I'm the watcher. I'm the receiver. So that gives me a completely different perspective, and I can see what's going on, and then I might say, you were so focused on that, you missed this over here. So it's important, again, to know your blind spots so that you can work with them. And one of the things I'll do is recording myself to get a different perspective. Another thing I will do is take a step back, usually physically. So if I'm up here playing, I can step back. I have a very different perspective of the sound from here and how it is in the room and how the instruments are interacting with each other than when I'm right up here. So sometimes I will do that. I will just physically move to get a different perspective on everything. I think that's important. And sometimes I'll just stop what I'm doing and think about it. Now, you can't do that in the middle of a session. I move around in my sessions, again, so I get a different perspective on the sound, especially what's it sound like in this room. But when you're in your own sound space and you're working on your craft, maybe take a pause and think about, how was that working? Did I like that? How was this gong working? Was that the right mallet choice for what I was going for? What if I took this mallet instead? What would this give me? How's the sound going to be different? Things like that. Take a step back, give it a little broader perspective, and think about what you were doing. And I can, again, speak from experience because I get so focused, I get so caught up in things, and it's just like I'm going, and it's really difficult for me to get out of that sort of a laser focus and just be right on it. So I have to consciously tell myself, wait a minute, step back, change your perspective. Visually, look at things differently. Orally, listen to things differently. And maybe just take a pause and just think about what's going on. What are you doing? What am I trying to accomplish? Am I meeting those goals? Am I getting the sound or the rhythm or the motion or the movement I'm looking for? If not, how can I change things? Instead of just keep going and going and going, sometimes down like a dead end, and it just gets you nowhere. It's like, wait, let's take a pause here. Let's take a look at what's happening. So I will do that. I will take that pause and I will just Try to get a different perspective. So look at yourself. What are your blind spots? We all have them in certain ways, and I could mention others, but this is for myself. But this is the main one. Maybe I'll talk about some others in a different video, but this is the main one. It's just my focus, and I know I just get this hyper focus going. Try to be aware of what your blind spots are. Then look at ways that you can change your perspective in relation to that blind spot. And then how can you, besides just change your perspective, how can you perhaps do it differently, what you're doing? Do it in a completely different manner. That will give you a whole different perspective. Okay. Well, that's about it for today. But yeah, blind spots. We all have them. I've got them. I've got a lot of them. It's becoming self-aware of them so that you can work around them, work with them, work through them, and again, get a different perspective than what that getting stuck in that blind spot gives you. Okay, thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next Cuppa Talks.